There we go. Looks like everything is set up the right way. Perfect. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Mental Health Monday here on Even Tacos Fall Apart. I am super excited for tonight's conversation. I'm super glad you are here. If you are here and you're here live with us today, feel free to ask any questions you would like. Our topic tonight is students and schools and mental health. We are going to be talking through a lot of different things. If you have anything related, you want to get that question in there, feel free to drop it in wherever you're watching right now. But today I am joined by Iuri Melo. He is a licensed clinical social worker with 20 years of experience, a dad of 5, that's a lot, and the co-founder of School Pulse, which is something we're going to talk about today. That's a national student support service that sends uplifting messages, growth mindset tools, and encouragement directly to students, parents, and schools via text and email. After his community was impacted by several teen suicides, Iuri helped create School Pulse in 2017 as a proactive way to support student well-being. Since then, it's grown to over 300 schools across more than 25 states. He's also the author of Mind Over Gray Matter and the teen bestseller Know Thy Selfie, and he's developed an approach called adventure-based therapy. His mission is simple but powerful: to bless the human family by helping people tap into kindness, resilience, and the tools they need to thrive. So Iuri, thank you so much for taking the time out to join us today and just for being here and sharing your evening with us.
Sister MommaFire, I am so happy to be here. And honestly, just even saying that name makes me happy. MommaFoxFire, at some point, I need you to tell me why. I want to hear your why later on, but I'm just so grateful to be here and ready to assist in any way that would be useful for you, useful for your listeners. Like, let's go. Let's dive deep.
Absolutely. Well, we're gonna get deep into this today. Before we get really deep into this, though, I do have a couple of social links for you guys. If y'all want to find Iuri anywhere, you can find him on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. I've got a link for Know Thy Selfie, Mind Over Gray Matter, also a couple of videos you can watch, and a link to some mental health resources. So there's a lot of ways you can connect in, and you'll know that I always say that engagement is king. So if you go and you connect with Iuri anywhere, please give him a like, give him a comment, give him a follow, whatever you want to do. Just make sure that you are hitting some buttons, typing some letters. That's what really makes a difference across all of those algorithms, for sure. So Iuri, we're gonna get to know you a little bit first. Can
Great.
you share what led to you becoming, first of all, a clinical social worker, and then also into the school scene? And what do you love about it? What do you hate about it?
Wow, there's a lot to say. I'll probably summarize that a little bit, but maybe I'll give you just a brief kind of overview. I'm originally from Portugal. I was actually born in Mozambique, Africa, which is a long
Oh,
ways away
wow.
from here. Yeah, so kind of a wild story. I mean, I don't recall it. I lived there for only a year. Then we moved to Portugal, grew up there, and then came to the United States at the age of 15. Actually lived with my sister and her husband while they were both going to college. My mom thought that they're just, I think by then, let's see, my parents divorced when I was about 11 or 12. And my mom, who was just a fabulous person, just, I think, kind of realized that there wasn't a lot for Iuri going on there, and kind of felt like there would be a better opportunity here in America, right? And so my sister was already here. She was going to school at Brigham Young University in Utah. My brother was on his way here. And so she said, hey, why don't you go finish up high school there, get a little bit of a better hang of the language? And so I did. I mean, that was quite the move for me. But honestly, I was just fortunate. I was fortunate to live with my sister, who is fabulous, her husband, who is fantastic, and just kind of hopped into a community that was kind, that was good, that was friendly. Later on, I went to school, I went to college. After 2 years of that, I actually did kind of a humanitarian kind of service mission, kind of a religious service mission for a couple of years. And I actually went and spent 2 years in New Jersey, which was just an absolutely mind-blowing experience. I absolutely love Jersey. Everything's legal in New Jersey. That's what Hamilton says. But I just had such a cool, what a great experience. And I think when it comes to kind of thinking about how did I get into this field of social work or working with people, I initially, when I got my associates, I got it in computer information systems. Honestly, I was not doing super well. Probably not putting in a ton of effort, I'll be honest with you. I was having a ton of fun and was not studying very hard. But later on, after that experience, I just realized, and this is going to sound perhaps a little cliche, but I just really enjoy people. Like I like them. Like their problems, their mistakes, their errors don't bother me. And I'm just sincerely like optimistic and good around people. So when I came back and kind of began my college career again into my bachelor's and then onto my master's, I chose to, I kind of went after psychology, and that's kind of where it began. But I'll be super honest there too. I don't know if I had a super strong why then, but I invested in it. I learned it. I started to become familiar with it. And then certainly as I began to really experiment, right, whether it be with individuals or working at hospitals or even care centers, I worked in a lot of places as a social worker or even as a medical social worker. And that's really when that passion, that motivation and inspiration started to come, was the more I started to get into the nitty gritty of it, the more I started to appreciate it, the more I started to like it. And so, interestingly enough, I think some people begin, right? They kind of have this vision, they have this why, they're motivated, and they pursue that. I think for me, which is probably true, geez, of a lot of things I've done in my life, it's just gone backwards, right? I kind of have to do the thing, and then my motivation and inspiration kind of comes, which is actually something that a lot of people get wrong. Overall, specifically about motivation, we often kind of flip the gears a little bit, right? And we kind of have this when I this, then I will, right? And I think so many times in our lives, right, we actually need to begin the other way, right? I
Mm-hmm.
need to begin this. And as I begin investing and nurturing and feeding this, then this passion kind of grows along. And so for me, I'm just very fortunate that I did choose something. I could have chosen a lot of other things as well, but I've chosen something that I feel has been a real benefit to me in my life, in my personal, my spiritual, my family life. It's been a real asset for me. So that's just a little bit about me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's fantastic. Not everyone knows what they want to do starting off.
Yeah,
Going in, you go into college, you get this degree. Sometimes you just get a degree because you're interested. Like you're like, I like people. I'm gonna look at psychology. It's kind of just what I'm interested
sure.
in. I changed my degree several times, and now I do something that isn't really related to anything. So it's very much like a, oh, how did I get here in my life? Well, it worked. So here we are.
Yeah,
I've got my oldest is in college and he is going for his bachelor's in education, and he's known for years that he wants to be a teacher. And I'm like,
lovely.
when I was in high school, I didn't know at all what I wanted to do. Like that wasn't a thing that I even thought about, but he's known for so long. He wants to be a teacher. He loves kids. It's what he wants to do. And I'm just like, great. We know exactly what to do to support you now. Like, that's fantastic. I look at my parents and I'm like, what? How did y'all know what I needed?
Yeah, I'm so excited for your kid. What an awesome thing to do. I actually have a daughter that just graduated, my second oldest daughter, and she began this year what she calls her first big job, right? So she's actually a special education teacher
Oh, I
at
love
one of the
that.
middle schools, and she's totally overwhelmed and losing her mind over it. But I think things will probably settle down for her. And man, is she going to do a lot of good? It's going to be absolutely
Yeah.
fabulous. And I would imagine that for your boy, it'll be exactly the same. Like he'll
Yeah.
be, I'm sure, overwhelmed, under resourced, under supported, but man, like just doing incredible things with kids. And I gotta say, like I think when I was a young boy, I think I was really, especially when I came over from Portugal to America, like I mean the school culture, the school atmosphere here is like night and day different. Like I can't even describe it. And I think when I came here, I was just massively intimidated, like just walking into
Yeah.
a school and whether it was talking to guys or especially American girls, like I was just terrified, would not speak to them. And I think there's just this incredible energy that happens in schools. And now, I mean, probably because I'm old, jaded, and I don't care, I love to walk into an environment like that. I am just in awe. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is an incredible environment. or when I go to a football game or an event, it's just incredible to me. So I am just excited that your son is going to pursue something that could potentially be not only transforming for himself, but obviously for the kids that'll be around him. So I wish him the best for sure.
Yeah, thank you. I'll pass that along for sure. And your daughter is
Yeah.
in a great position too, because my grandmother retired from being a special education and early
Oh,
childhood teacher. And I mean, the families were so involved in her classroom, and it was one of those things that every teeny tiny advancement that those kids would make was just a massive celebration. So I hope she's in for some of that in her career as well, because that is one, special education especially, that is one that touches lives in a way, on a just another level. So good for her. I hope that she finds a lot of enjoyment, fulfillment
yes.
out of it. Most definitely. My grandmother did. She absolutely loved being a teacher. Absolutely loved it.
I absolutely think she will too. But yeah, like I mean, we're what, like a month in, and it's rough. She's skipping
Yeah.
along the surface,
Yes.
bing, 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 but she's gonna do lovely. She's
Yeah.
such a brilliant girl.
Now you said you have 5 kids. So what
Yeah,
age range are we looking at here?
yeah. We're looking from, oh my gosh, I can tell you what the youngest one is. Okay, hold on. We've got 2 older girls. Which, by the way, if you can potentially arrange it that way, I would tell everybody, like, have girls first, then boys, because they are just so unbelievably good and helpful. But I've got 2 older girls. My oldest girl is married. She's the one that has the child. So I'm a grandpa, which is just fabulous. Her name is Adia. She is, let's see, I think she's 25, 24, 24, 25. Then my other girl, who just started as a special education teacher, she's 23. Then I've got 2 sons, 19 and 18. And they're actually kind of doing that humanitarian service right now as well. One of them is in the UK, and the other one's going to Japan, which is just,
Oh,
I'm just so
wow.
excited for them. Yeah, experiences like that I feel are just, they're so good. They're so
Hmm.
distinct. They're so unique, and they're so way outside of anybody's comfort level, right?
Yes.
And those boys, and my oldest daughter did that too. I feel like those experiences are just so incredible, and so I'm just happy, joyous for them that they're doing. And then I've got a young girl at home who's 14. She does cheerleading at our local high school here, and speaking of Foxfire, that girl is Foxfire. She is so fun. She just keeps my wife and I just hopping, and it's really fun. So
Oh, that's so you have a majorly packed schedule just with your kids, sounds like. Like
yeah,
you're
it,
here, there, and everywhere
it's actually
supporting
slowed
them.
down a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's actually slowed down a lot because, I mean, back in the day when we had all of our kids home, and doing soccer
Hmm.
and other activities. Right now, we just have cheer, which honestly is insanely busy.
Yes.
And those coaches told us, like, hey, we're going to probably see your kid more than you're going to see your kid, which is true at times. But yeah, but we actually kind of like it because it keeps my wife and I really connected to the community. Like we go to the school events, we go to the games, we go to the volleyball games, the football games, the soccer games. So in a way, we're actually really grateful that she's engaged and involved
Yeah.
because it keeps us connected, uh, to our community. And we may even touch on that a little bit later on, right? That's such a key
Hmm.
principle in positive psychology, specifically the concept that the most important factor for our short and long-term happiness in life are positive relationships, right? And a lot of those come as a result of our involvement, right? Whether it be in kind of our civic or school or religious, whatever kind of a community, or even your Discord community, right? Those kinds of things, right? I always tell people, I don't even know who said this quote, and I'm probably going to massacre it, but I'll just say it anyways. I always say positive relationships or just relationships multiply joy and divide sorrows. And it's so true. And the evidence is absolutely true that when we have friendships, that our happiness is amplified, and also not only is our sorrow divided or lessened, but our courage is amplified as well. So it's just, the research out there is really key, is really important, and it's another reason why we're in schools as well, because we want to make sure that those schools are exactly that for kids. Man, we want to create an
Yeah.
awesome climate and atmosphere there so that, yes, I realize kids are going to love, hate school, etc., like all that stuff. We all did that too. But man, I guess I'm a little bit of an idealist. I really hope that they leave high school, middle school with some cool memories. And part of that will only happen if those kids say yes, right? If they stop saying, no, I don't want to do that. That's not my thing. That's not my blah. I just be like, just say yes. If it's good, if it's fun, if it's adventurous, if it's cool, if it's not breaking the law, like the answer is yes. It's yes all the time. So say yes. But anyways, I'm always kind of just drilling kids about fun stuff like that. But
Yeah, no, it's really important. It's really important to have someone have a way to be connected in with the community. My youngest
yeah,
joined band this year, and we were already connected
love it.
in with the community outside of school. But band is just another level of like we're at all the events and stuff, and that's not starting yet because he's only in sixth grade. But they are constantly sending out emails like eighth grade band is going to be here this weekend, ninth grade band is going to be here this weekend. Like it's just I can see my future happening. And I was a band kid too, so I already know.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, we had daughters that did choir. We had them that did
Mhm.
they did what's not band, but the other with the violin and the
Oh, like
cello. It's a
orchestra?
different name, orchestra,
Hmm.
and we loved it. Honestly, like my wife and I
Yeah.
are better people for it, and so we're just so grateful. Like I just
Yeah.
am totally in awe. And I know that our kiddos right now are going through some really challenging times. There's some really challenging things, and we can see that, right? Sometimes we feel like all of the metrics, right, that we're seeing with our kids, whether it be with depression, anxiety, suicidality, self harm, et cetera, they all seem to kind of be heading in the wrong direction. I'm actually quite optimistic. I'll be honest, in part because I just think they're the greatest. Like, I
Yeah.
think the stuff that they come up with is just so cool. Like their words, their phrasing, it honestly just makes me laugh out of my mind. And of course, I say them back, and it embarrasses my daughter. But I can't help it. I just have to say it.
That's a
It's so
perk of
cool.
being a parent.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
That's something that I've said too, though. I've said before, and I've said this to multiple people multiple times, but I'm like, my children and a lot of their friends as well, give me a lot of hope for the future. Like I know that
Yeah,
things are uncertain right now, and there's a lot of this and there's a lot of that, but seeing the way that they interact with each other, the way that they talk to one another, the way they support one another, really gives me just that little bit of I've got a glimmer of the future could be really good.
oh yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just because of the way
I,
that they
I'm
are.
absolutely, and I really am with you. Like I just, once again, my wife and I, we just feel privileged. Seriously, like to just be a part of our kids' lives, and I don't even know. I mean, my wife and I are honestly in awe most of the time because we feel like, man, like our kids are just so fun. Like I just get like giddy happy. Like in the mornings when I see them, at night when we put them to bed, like when we talk to them on the phone, they just bring us so much joy. And
Yeah.
so I'm just grateful for them and happy that that they're making choices that you know, I guess that feed into that happiness for them. And of course, their struggles and massive challenges as well. Like I feel like, oh my gosh, this world is unbelievably overwhelming. Like I
Yeah.
feel like we're just running, gasping for air sometimes. Um, Man, I feel like that part is actually really tough, especially as an adult. I would say
Hmm.
it wears on me. It does. It wears
Yeah.
on me. I don't know what it's like for you, but so I'm with you guys. Whoever your listeners are, whoever I think we're all there. I think we're all trying
Yeah.
to trudge our way through some of the muddy spots, and hopefully we can find some better water and clearer water. But
Yeah. Now, on top of being a father and being busy just with that, you're also a social worker, you're an author. I've seen some videos you've made, so you're a content creator, you're a speaker because you're here with us today. It sounds like a packed schedule. How do you protect your own mental health and how do you find that balance between work and kids
yeah.
and passion and hobbies?
Uh, with the exception of today, because I usually, I mean, like once usually 4 or 5 p.m. hits, like I mean, it's off, and I mean
Yeah.
off as in off. I don't respond to texts, I don't answer emails unless I want to. And I do have to say, like, some people may not have this opportunity. I realize that not
Yeah.
every job, not every opportunity has benefits like this. But that's just one of the things I do. One of the things I tell people all the time, and it drives people absolutely crazy sometimes. But my phone is always on off. The sound is off. The notifications are off. Like, I don't see text unless it's a phone call. Like, I just don't see it. And so when I
Yeah.
come home, unless I'm like doing a Wordle challenge with my wife or whatever it is, like, I just am not like, I'm not on. I'm not going to answer unless I really want to. And I know that sometimes people want to get a hold of me, but I've really protected that time well. And then in addition to that, and once again, I have to count myself fortunate. I really do enjoy what I do. Right now, I split my time. I kind of do my school pulse work uh, early in the day, so from about 8 a.m. or 7:30 to about 12 or 12:30, and then I jump and do therapy, in the afternoon until about 4 or 5. And it's lovely. Like, therapy, honestly, is an incredible experience. And probably the question that I most get asked by people is always like, Iuri, how do you sit and listen to people's problems every day? And I think the idea that they have of therapy, right, is that that's what therapy is, right? It's this kind of negative, gloomy place.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose maybe that is people's experience. Now that I think about it, maybe that is what people think about it, but it's not how it feels to me. Like, for me, that process is fun. It's invigorating. Yes, we dig in sometimes, but it's always from the perspective of whatever it is that's occurring or has occurred in your life. We're going to find some way. We're going to find a way to somehow take that experience, and we're going to synthesize it and consecrate it for your good. Like, and I never do that. Like, I never try to minimize people's experience or their struggle, but I also want them to feel unbelievably optimistic that that's exactly what we're going to do. Like, we are absolutely going to move forward bigger, better, stronger, wiser. And that's the objective of therapy. And so for me, therapy is, in addition to just meeting people and getting into the nitty gritty of their lives so quickly, it's just so fun, honestly. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just honored that I've even been a part of that. So,
I'll bet you're a great therapist because
well, you're very kind.
I've definitely been in some therapy situations where I'm like, yeah, if I came to see you every week, it would be a doom and gloom situation. That is what would be happening right now. But finding the right therapist makes such a huge difference. And for some people, the way that some people
Sure.
do therapy, it works for them that way. And I'm not that way. And I know myself now. I didn't know myself when I first started in therapy. I know myself much better now. And it's like I know the kind of therapist that I need. And so I seek that out. And it's one of those things that therapy for me is not all doom and gloom. It's a lot
Yeah.
of empowerment, and it's a lot of like also a little bit of gut check because my therapist knows me well enough that she's like, really? You know? But but yeah, I mean, it's great, and it's good that you're able to kind of have this balance of I work on this, and then I switch over and work on this, and then I switch over and I focus on family and everything. Wordle is something that my oldest and I
Wordle.
do. He'll text
Yeah.
me and say like, "Mom, did you do the Wordle today? It took me 4 tries." I'm like, "Okay, I see you. All right, come on, let's
I
go."
got you. Punk. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He just
I
had me
love it.
download the actual app so that we can have a leaderboard. Normally I just do it like in my browser, but I guess
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
an
yeah.
actual app, so I started doing it that way. But yeah, I think protecting that time and when you can, where you can, drawing those lines and saying, this is what I'm
Sure.
going to do. This is the time I'm going to work on this, and then giving that to dedicate. It sounds like it really works for you. I know it works for a lot of folks. And if you're
Yeah.
able to do that, it's something that can be really powerful.
Yeah. It's honestly been a blessing for us. And my wife has done the same. And I say that with the understanding that there is stuff that happens in the afternoons and in the night times, and of course in the weekends, right? I mean, we're also involved in our communities. We're involved like in some religious communities, and so we've got a lot of stuff going on. And once again, for us, it's wonderful because we feel like we've just created a really wonderful little network of just people, right? That love us, that care about us. We love them. We care about them, And right, I mean, and those are the special things, right? Once again, I think when we lean on some of these positive psychology concepts, right, that we're now not only like, do we know, or we think like, yeah, these things are good, but we actually have really solid evidence for why these things are so beneficial for us in our lives and our communities. And once again, with the school pulse work, right, is that's really my intent, right? Is we want to take these potentially awesome places, right, where these youth are congregated, right? They're just smashed in there. And we just want to do everything in our power to give them fabulous tools, fabulous strategies, just like an injection of optimism and goodness, and hoping that those things will make a change. And we have, and we can talk about that perhaps later. But
Absolutely. Do you have a true crime story that fascinates you?
oh my gosh. There's a really good one here, and I got to tell you, this is a really funny story. I don't remember the name, but it was years and years ago. Oh my gosh, it's going to escape my mind. But it's really a tragic story. But it was this man who potentially murdered his wife. They couldn't figure it. Was here in Utah. He murdered his wife. Well, there's no conclusive evidence that he
Yeah.
had killed his wife, but they couldn't find her body. And so he had his children and then ended up kind of killing himself and killing them. It was just
Mm.
tragic story. And I mean, so I remember like listening to this podcast with my wife, and we kind of knew about the story. But my wife sometimes, she's just so lovely, honestly. But sometimes things like that really impact her. And I
Hmm.
mean, and we would kind of just, and every once in a while she would kind of be listening to this podcast and she's like, Iuri, I can't listen to stuff like this. Like, I just can't do it. And I'm like, well, why not? She's like, well, because all of a sudden, like, I'm comparing this crazy psychopath to you. Like,
Oh,
I'm
no.
just like, oh my gosh. And so, not that I'm well, maybe I am a crazy psychopath. I'm admitting it here live with you, but in my wife would see like some little tiny resemblance. She'd be like, "Oh my gosh, like don't." It's the Josh Powell case. I just remembered it
Okay.
now,
All
or
right.
the something Powell. Anyways, so it was funny because as a result of that, I would always tell her, I don't know, just watch your input, right? Because if you
Yeah.
don't, I end up getting like bait or blamed or pinned for things that I just am not doing. But anyways, but what a tragic story. Oh my gosh. Like I don't even
Yeah.
what a question. I love that you're asking me about true crime, but that's probably one that I think sticks in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, true crime and mental health conversations seem to go hand in hand. So not that
Yes, you're right.
now I say that, but not that mental health and mental illness causes more crime, because the statistics are the opposite on that. They don't. Generally, folks with
Sure.
mental illness are more likely to be the victim of crime. But when you're talking to therapists tend to love true crime.
That's so interesting. I love that. I honestly had never thought of that. I mean, there's yes, I think that's very important. I'm glad that you're making that point. Um, but it's also obvious, right? In my mind, and challenge me here, but in my mind, I'm thinking, um, I think it's obvious that those people are not well either, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm less about creating some sort of a clinical diagnosis for them.
Hmm.
Um, but when we're doing things right that are intentionally harming ourselves or harming others or self-sabotaging our own lives or just being unintelligent, um, there's a measure of unwellness there, right? and,
Hmm.
and I say unwellness to be sensitive, right? Unwellness meaning like our brain is not functioning super
Yep.
well. Like if that's how we're interpreting reality, if we're engaged in this kind of self-betrayal and we can't quite see it and we justify or rationalize, which by the way, this is stuff that we all do. We all justify or rationalize some of our behaviors. um, but yeah, it's sad. I mean, and even as I'm telling you this in my mind, like my brain is just like popping with so many cases and so many
Yeah.
individuals that I've had the pleasure to visit with, you know and as I've engaged with them and interacted with them, in a way, I'm engaging and interacting with their brain and always listening. I'm always trying to listen to their brain. Like, how does it think? How does it interpret events? Like, how does it think about himself, about others, about the world around them? Um, and in a way, right? I hope that when you go to a therapist or when somebody goes to a therapist, I hope you really engage with someone that helps you to develop an extraordinary mindset, right? A mindset that
Yes.
will allow you to interpret the events in your life in a way that can nurture and feed your hope and optimism, right? And then really that's the basis of, cognitive therapy, right? The idea that, the way you describe the events of your life matter more than the events themselves, right? And that's what our psychology is all about.
Yeah, I definitely agree that all these sensational, I can't say all, the
Yeah,
majority of the sensational true crime stories you hear definitely have something going on in their brain, either from trauma or from mental illness
sure.
of some flavor, right? What I was saying is like crime statistics generally and versus the true crime stories that you hear, there's such a
Yeah,
small fraction. And it's not that folks with mental illness are more likely to commit crimes because that is not true. And I don't want to put that out there at all. Folks with mental illness are far and above more likely to be the victim of a crime.
yeah,
However, a story is always made whenever you have something sensational happen. And yeah, I,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that all of those stories definitely revolve around most of the time some sort of trauma in the person's life that then caused something that they were dealing with in their brain. So yeah, no, I absolutely same page, 100%.
No, for sure, for sure, for sure. It it really is. It's challenging. I feel like life is really challenging. In fact, I would even say like people with the brain are most likely to commit a crime
Yeah.
because sometimes our brains are really challenging. Like,
Yes.
there. And I say this, and I also kind of have this. Obviously, like part of the things that we share with individuals, and this is just, as a therapist, right? Really believe in this concept of growth, right? The idea that we're constantly in this process of evolution, right? Um, and hopefully evolving in a way that's beneficial, that's advantageous for you, for your family, for your loved ones, right? But sometimes not. But
Yeah.
sometimes not. And I think in some ways, some people have some biological predisposition for things. Of course, there are significant events, right, or traumatic events that shape us. And so I guess I would always say, and I'm even talking about situations that can sometimes be so unbelievably tragic and scary, but
Hmm.
um, I guess I'm always kind of risking on the side of compassion, um, of love towards individuals, and really with the understanding, I'm not afraid of justice, and the understanding that sometimes justice is going to definitely play a role in what happens to individuals like that. Um, but I guess I've been really fortunate. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, I was doing a presentation, kind of a mental health presentation, to some of the local law enforcement here in my community. Just a bunch of guys and women. They're just fabulous people, just good people. But unfortunately for them, usually their engagement with people doesn't go beyond
Yeah.
the we're in this really critical event. Sometimes there's violence, sometimes there's drug use, sometimes people are not at their best when they're engaging with officers. And that's as far as officers get most of the time, right? Is
Hmm.
they see that and they never get to see, or sometimes they don't see, I should say, what I see in a therapist's office, right? Which is the moment that I begin to have an honest and sincere conversation with anyone, I can't help but begin to feel a sense of compassion and sympathy and love for that person. Like,
Absolutely.
regardless of how absolutely nuts sometimes their behavior is. Um, and so I think for police officers, for sure. In fact, one of the questions that I asked them right at the beginning of this training is I said, what are some of the benefits and some of the downsides or some of the challenges to being a police officer? And to be honest, not a lot of them had benefits. They're like, man, when it comes to mental health, I don't know if there's a benefit. And of course, then I helped to make some connections. They actually have some really lovely things that really connected them, I think, to a deep sense of meaning and purpose and brotherhood and camaraderie, and really to kind of stick to some values that protect. So there's a lot of things that they're doing that they could really tap into and feel good and joyful. But oftentimes, really tough. I mean, they're dealing with the public at moments in their life where they're probably the most unwell, right? And that's just tough. And I care for them. I honor them. I honor those people too. And so I'm just fortunate, that I kind of get to see people on this other level, right? I kind of get to sit with them peacefully, optimistically, and really hear them out. And when that happens, then my heart is filled with grace for them. And so I think there's a place for both of those. Obviously, grace and justice. It's just, it can be challenging in a community for sure.
Yeah. I wish that every police officer could have a chance to work in a community really closely. And I'll give just like a real quick personal example. Sure. We had a community officer where I used to live, and she actually stopped by and bought Girl Scout cookies and everything. We were selling outside of one of the grocery stores. And so I had just seen her, and then she followed up and said, hey, could I get some more cookies? I was like, yeah, of course. Absolutely. Like, come by my house and get them. And so she did that. And then a couple of days later, apparently there was a shooter call on my house. And she saw it come through, and she was like, wait, I know that address. And she's like, no, I'll go talk to this family. And she said, normally it's like a 2-car call. If you get it, there's a gun, it's a 2-car minimum. And she was like, I mean, if it doesn't seem like it's something, it's just a neighbor calling and not a domestic violence call or anything. And it turned out the neighbor had called the cops on my kids shooting a BB gun in the backyard, which perfectly legal. Sure. They're perfectly legal. It's perfectly fine to do that in the backyard. And she knocked on my door. I was like, oh, hey, do you need more cookies? She's like, actually, no.
As a matter of fact.
And so it was just, because we already had that not relationship, but we already had that knowledge of each other and that understanding of things. And I mean, I invited her in, and she came and saw what the kids were doing. Like, she looked out the window before she even went out there with them and talked to them. And it was fine. It was just a kind of a shitty neighbor, but that happens. Yeah. And it's just one of those things that, if she didn't know, that could have been a really intense moment for my family. Unexpected police presence at my door. They could have been like guns ready and everything. And it's one of those things that it just like, because there was already that community connection, it was handled so well on her part. And I'm really grateful for little moments like that. I wish that every police officer could have that really close tie-in to their community. I know that's not always possible. Now I live in an area that's super rural, and like we barely have police here at all. So it's kind of like, if one of them shows up, you're really kind of looking at, what are you doing here? But yeah,
they're looking for Girl Scout cookies.
They are. They're looking for cookies. And that's just fine. We'll find a way to get you some cookies. It's all good.
That's actually a really good point. Yeah, go ahead. We'll
no. It's all good. I was just going to say, Bite Mark sent this question ahead of time. She would like to know, what is your favorite poem?
Oh, okay. So let me, and you gave me a little bit of heads up. Can I say that, or does that ruin everything?
Yeah, no, absolutely. She knew I was going to give you a heads up.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I actually have, I have a couple of them. Some of them are in Portuguese, and I was actually like, oh my gosh, like I should figure out a way to translate these, but it's too much work. I'll save that for another time. But probably one of the first things that I heard, that truly, that I feel inspired me, like I was moved. And I got to say, like it came from, Dead Poets Society. Just if you guys remember that show with Robin Williams,
that movie. Right? I cry every time. Time.
He's just such a fabulous character in that movie. And at one point in there, he quotes Henry David Thoreau, who is actually one of my favorite American philosophers. He wrote Walden, right? If you guys know that story, when he kind of left his community there in Concord and basically went and lived by the side of Walden Pond, who's a beautiful place, by the way. I've actually been there. I swam across that lake. I just needed to have the full experience. But there's a little, I guess it's kind of a free-flowing poem. There's not a ton of form to it, but it's just something that I'm sure that your listeners will probably recognize once I begin to read. And so I will read this to you, and this is in his book, and in a way it's his why. Like, why did he do this? Why did he leave his community and go out to live in this little cabin in the woods in Walden? And so I'll read it to you. He said, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I did not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear. I wanted to live deep and suck out all of the marrow of life, to live so sturdily and Spartan-like as to put to rout all that was not life, to cut a broad swath and shave close, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms." So the whole part of just to live deep, suck the marrow. If you listen to some of my videos, I mean, I've made now hundreds of videos and podcasts for teens throughout this. And if you listen to enough of them, you will hear me say the live deep, suck the marrow. Like, that is just like one of my mantras that I've tried to live by myself. And that I just want to inspire kids to do the same. Like, go out there, live deep, suck the marrow. Like, so anyways, that's probably one of the very first things that I remember that just really moved me. Like, those words, like, they touched me inside. So anyways, how about yours? You gotta give me yours. What's yours?
So
You
my
got one
favorite
that kind of
poem,
springs to mind?
I do. I've got a great one, and I don't get asked this a whole lot, but I get asked it enough that I actually have a command on my channel that will pull it up for
Oh
me
my.
so that I
Let's
can
go.
send a link, but it's by Hannah Danes and it's called "Don't Kill Yourself Today." And it goes through, I'll read the first few lines because it's pretty long, but it says, "Don't kill yourself today because your Netflix free trial still has a week left. Don't kill yourself today because no one else will finish off the chicken in the fridge. Don't kill yourself today because I know for a fact Starbucks is introducing a new Frappuccino sometime next month. Yes, your mother will miss you. Yes, your bully will make a sappy Facebook post about what a wonderful person you are. Yes, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. But you know that. You've known that. And anyone and everyone has been shoving that down your throat since you first learned what the word suicide meant." So, and it goes on to talk about, don't kill yourself until Doctor Who is finally canceled. Like, all these things. There's just reasons. Like, everyone knows the big things of why shouldn't you do this? And why people will miss you, all those kinds of things. But, like, find a small thing. Find a tiny thing. So that's my favorite poem.
Genius.
I love it. It's like,
Genius.
who's going to take care of this dumb cat? I love you. You're not dumb. You're fine.
I love that so much. I actually, so we provide a lot of live support to teens throughout the country via text. So we proactively text students, and then students engage with us, right? Whether they're doing awesome in life and life is good, or sometimes life is not so good, right? And they themselves may be contemplating suicide or thinking about suicide or have a plan to take their life by suicide. And we provide not only live support with live people, but we also have just created an incredibly comprehensive list of resources. In fact, I created this podcast specifically. It's a small video now about suicide, and it needs to be redone. It's time to redo it, and I'm going to use that because I love it so much. I actually really love the idea. And I like the humor in it. I like the humor in it as well. I like that it's got a little spice in there. And I think that that's really important. It's really important because sometimes even just the conversation, right? When we talk about suicide or somebody having suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideas, and whenever people have those thoughts or ideas inside of them, it's embarrassing for them. they're ashamed of having those
Yep.
thoughts, right? And so it's very difficult for them to open up. It's very difficult for them to admit it. It's very difficult for them to say it. And of course, one of the things, especially as a therapist, right? I mean, that I do, especially when I'm one-to-one with somebody, is, and this is going to come out wrong, but just hang with me for a second. But I don't want them to overthink their thinking, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes just because we think or feel something doesn't mean that it's real or that it's true or that it's meaningful. And this is a pretty sophisticated concept in therapy, when we, in a sense, to kind of separate a little bit from our thinking and feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that ability, right, for us to kind of almost, if you can imagine me seeing myself, right, and I'm observing my thinking and feeling, right, and trying to address it from a place of reason, of humor, of acceptance, of it's good, like, but so often, and understandably so, when we think things, or when our brain thinks things, or we feel things, um, we almost feel connected to those things,
Mm-hmm.
like they're us. In a sense, we fuse with our thinking and feeling, when in reality, sometimes we don't need to. I know that that's probably going a little bit too much, like, cognitively to what we do, but the reason why I like that poem so much, right, is it takes something, right, that's pretty intense, right? We're talking about suicide here,
Mm-hmm.
or somebody taking their life or ending their life. And I love how she starts with some humor. Like,
Yep.
I love that, because I think that's exactly what we need to do to de-intensify that conversation and to de-escalate it, where we're not necessarily now just talking about suicide. We're talking about, right, what happened today, or even more important, these little tiny things that aren't the big things
Yeah.
that could maybe keep us around and keep us enjoying life a little bit more. I love it. I'm going to redo it, and I'm totally going to use that. I love it. Yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks for sharing that.
I'll send you the link for sure. My
Will
my
you? I
favorite
love that.
yeah. My favorite part in it is whenever she says, like, don't kill yourself, because at least once in your life you want to finish the shampoo and conditioner at the same time. Because I can't think of a single time that I've ever done that. Like, I'm
Yeah.
40 years old and I can't think of a time where I have finished the shampoo and conditioner at the exact same time.
Well, the shampoo always goes first. I mean, we
Yeah,
overuse the
because you
shampoo.
wash twice.
Yeah. We can't. Yeah, I can't have too
Uh,
much conditioner. Then my hair is
yeah.
like slippery and
Yeah,
does
yeah.
weird things.
Yeah, no, that's a great one, and it's definitely my favorite poem for sure. But I'll share it
Yeah,
with you.
I
It's
love.
longer than what I read. It goes on for quite a while,
Great.
but it's
I
great. I've
think
got
I'll
a
take
link.
pieces of it and just share it. It'll be great.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we've talked a little bit about students and schools, and we're going to bring it all together. What do you think are the biggest stressors for students today, and how have they changed over the years?
Wow, fabulous question. Let's get into it. I actually think that sometimes, maybe, I don't think this is like number one or number two, because I think I would say that those things, at least what we hear the very most. So one of the things that we do, for example, with School Pulse, is we, like, when students kind of opt into our service, is once they do that, we begin to text them, like, right on their phone. It's not an
Mm-hmm.
app. They don't have to download anything. We literally just show up on their phone and say, "Hey, how you doing today?" Every Tuesday, we deliver kind of our student success videos, which is just packed with goodness and fun, and content that hopefully is not too cringy. And then on Friday, we provide other kind of inspirational or engaging type of content. And the goal is always to connect them with real people, right? And so one of the things, I would say, probably the thing that we hear the very most, I think, that stresses students the most, um, is the pressure that they feel to just do well,
Mm,
to succeed, right? Whether that's coming from themselves, whether that's coming from their parents, or they're misinterpreting their parents, or it's coming from their community, or whatever it is. There's just this pressure to perform, right, at a
yeah.
high level. And I would say that the other thing, that I think is, this is by far what we hear the very most from students, excuse me, um, is relationships, like, meaning
Mm,
relationships with their family, relationships with their friends. And I say when those relationships aren't going well, right?
Yeah.
When there's drama or there's betrayal or there's divorce and so I would actually say, even when students come to us, right, expressing some suicidal ideation, expressing their own struggle, their own depression, and whenever they allow us, right, to engage with them, and we just quickly jump in and say, like, I'm so happy that you're here. Like, thank you for sharing that with us. What's going on? Tell me what's happened today, right? And those conversations usually go to one of those two places.
Mm.
Like, I'm having some struggles with my friends. Things aren't going well. I'm lonely. I don't have friends, right? Or I'm not doing well. I'm falling behind. I feel stressed. My parents are da 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 da, right? And I say that, right? I'm sure that my kids could probably even say that about myself and my wife, even though I don't feel like that's the message we were attempting to send. But I would say that whenever we're engaging with kids who are in crisis, more often than not, I think by a large gap, we're hearing these two specific topics.
Yeah.
They want to perform well, the pressure to perform. And number two, whatever, like their relationships for adolescents are just of an incredible magnitude. And so, which is why so much of our content, right, is geared, right, number one, because we know that the most important factor for their short-term and long-term happiness is relationships. So we have lots of content to help them to navigate relationships with so much style and goodness and patience, trust in the process. And at the same time, we want to feed them this fabulous content, this positive psychology skills, these growth mindset skills that will actually improve their academic performance. And we got to remember, right? We're trying to deliver content to kids in schools. So for us, like, our priority is always, we want to do everything we can in our power to provide you with the kinds of mindset and psychology that will help you to be successful there. Interestingly enough, I specifically would like growth mindset type psychology. It's actually made to de-intensify some of that pressure by creating a growth mentality instead of if I bomb this test, like, I'm going to be living in my parents' basement for the rest of my life, right? That is like fixed, rigid, like pessimistic mindset. And that's why kids, I think so many times, right, get caught up in that negative cycle and then kind of cycle down to some of these other more hopeless, powerless type places. And where at that point, right, things like, I don't even know if I mean, I'll say suicide, but really, I think a lot of times kids are just looking for relief
Mm.
and a way they just don't want to hurt. They just don't want to suffer. And maybe they're just using suicide because that's the word that kind of fits that, but they're really just looking for some relief for themselves. So
Yeah.
anyways.
I mean, I really do think that it's good for kids to have someone besides their parents to talk to. I
Sure.
think it's good for them to have that kind of outlet to be open and honest with also. Because it's hard. It's hard enough to say, like, "Oh, I had a really shitty day and I want to talk
Yeah.
about it." And then you're at home and your parents immediately like, "What homework do you have?" And
Sure.
I'm guilty of that,
Yeah. Hey, you and I,
absolutely.
sister.
Like,
Yeah,
I
you
I
got it.
work full time, and so whenever my youngest gets home, I'm still working, and I'm just like, take care of what you need to take care of, and when I'm done working, like, especially if I'm in a meeting, when I'm done with this, I'll come out there and we can, like, connect and everything. But it can be really tough, and for them to have something just a text-based support that they can reach out to, I think is super impactful. It would have been for me, for sure.
it, and honestly, we love it. And I mean, and maybe another time we could have a longer conversation. Probably not, but I think the main idea, and I think this is what's really important, is whenever I talk to people specifically about whether it's our text-based support or our email campaigns that we send out to parents and students, or all of our other resources that we provide for schools, we're really a positive psychology service. Like,
Yeah.
our goal is to enhance the good that is already happening, right? And then prevent, and when possible, intervene early. So we're not I always tell people we're not a crisis line. We're not passively waiting for
Yeah.
crisis to happen. We're not like a fire extinguisher on the wall, right? That sits there and we have to break the glass when crisis happens. And then, right, we want to proactively engage with kids. We want to deliver awesomeness to them. We want them to have an awesome perspective. We really do, because we want them to live an awesome life. We want them to live deep and suck the marrow. Like, that's what we want. And so, interestingly enough, like, probably 75 to 80% of our engagement with students is positive. Like, that's what it is. Like,
Yeah.
students are telling us about the good things in their life, the silly things in their
That's
life, right?
awesome.
And then, of course, yeah. And then, of course, we do have those, right, and we're so grateful that we do, right, who come to us, on a Friday night or a Tuesday night or a Saturday or a Sunday, who aren't well, like something has happened or
Mm.
something is happening. And then, of course, we have kids who may report physical or sexual abuse or other things. And once again, our goal, right, number one, and this is key, our goal is always to connect these kids to family, or to family, to parents, to guardian, to their primary network. Like that,
Hmm.
we are not the final solution. We are not the ultimate solution,
Yeah.
but we are here to provide that support, that encouragement, that help to connect them, number one, to their parents, number two, to the professionals at their school, and then number three, to other resources around them, wherever they may be, right? And so we never we're the solution. That's not what we are. Man, we're offering a ton of good. But our goal is always to connect them to live people, because once again, right, I'm back to that principle, the primary factor, positive relationships. And even though, yes, there is a bit of a relationship that happens when teens text our team and we answer as a committee and we're connecting with the student, but that's not the connection we're trying to
Yeah.
reinforce or encourage. We're always trying to, like, one of our first questions to students when they share with us anything, right, is, hey, are your parents aware? Like, have
Hmm.
you had a chance to speak to them about this? Would you be willing to talk to your parents about this, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes yes, and sometimes, like, no, I don't think I would. They would be disappointed, or they've got too much on their plate already, or I don't want to stress them out, right? And kids, once again, they're just wonderful. Like, they're just
Mm.
awesome. And so many times, simply by having that just warm, grateful, enthusiastic voice that's there for them, like, it just does exactly what we hope it does, which is we just take some of that intensity and we just go like that. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, and we can actually measure. We have a couple of algorithms that allow us to measure the impact that's happening on those text threads. And when students talk with our team, like, we can raise their sentiment levels like 40 to 60%. It's just awesome. And if you think about it, we're not talking like magic. Like, we're just talking, we have a very simple thing. When kids come to us, we greet them with enthusiasm. We match them where they are. We thank them for being there. We ask them questions. We seek to understand them. And then, only then, and at the end, do we say, hey, we've got a couple of suggestions, or I have an idea for
Hmm.
you, or I have a video that I want you to watch. Would you be willing? And we found that gentle, right, approach, man, I feel like it just does this to our heart. It just goes,
Yeah.
and then it allows us in, right, because we're not trying to force, or we're just gently coming in, matching them, and just caring for them. It's powerful.
Yeah. And the idea of just like you're trying to reconnect them in with their community, with their support
Sure.
system and everything, because that's a skill that you have to develop. You have to develop first of all,
Yeah.
awareness that you have people in your life, in your orbit, who are there, who want to support you. You have people who care about you, and you have people who want to hear about this. And if you feel like you have no one, then let's figure out how to remind you that you do. But it's a skill also to be able to say, am I willing to talk to my parents about this? Is this
Oh
something
yeah.
I should talk to them about this?
Ooh.
And just the ability to like get that awareness from a third party has got to be so helpful, because it's hard to learn that by example if you have a super self-sufficient independent parent who doesn't reach out to anyone else for support. Like, where are you going to learn it from then? You know.
Yeah,
And
that's
and
true.
parents by nature are no longer in school, and so they don't get to learn how to handle school situations because they're not seeing their parents in school. They're learning from all their peers, and if their peers don't have those skills yet, then they're not getting those skills. They're not learning those skills. They've got to learn them from somewhere. And it sounds like your service is really putting that at the forefront of let's help them figure
Oh yeah.
this out on their own.
Yeah, for sure. I hope maybe one of the links that you can share, right? Just some of our videos. I mean, that we share with schools, that we share with parents, that we share with students. I hope that that's exactly what you will get from these.
Yeah.
Is we know our place. We
Mm-hmm.
know our place. And our place is to inspire, our place is to educate, our place is to provide awesome skills in the hands of these kids and in the hands of parents, because ultimately that's what we want. Like, we want parents to see these resources and hopefully utilize them with their own kids, right? Whether it's talking about, the appropriate use of AI, or how to deal with information or misinformation, or how to improve their relationships, or how to become a better student, or how to be a better test taker. Like, we've just created this incredible content that hopefully will match whatever it is that your teen is going through, because we've just been listening to teens now for 7 years. I think we have a pretty good idea of what they're asking for, and we've just done it. We've tried to provide that
Yeah.
in video format or in podcast format.
Yeah. I'd be happy to share whichever video
Yeah,
specifically. Happy
yeah,
to share that. 100%.
yeah. Well, they can have access to all of it, and then they
Yeah.
can utilize it.
Yeah,
So,
that'll work.
anyways,
What do you wish teachers and school staff understood better about students' mental health?
this is going to sound. Here's what I would actually say. I would actually say that they probably don't need to know a lot about mental health. This is going to
Mm,
sound a little bit weird, but let me just. This is just. I mean, I'm just having a conversation. I don't even know if this is what I would say to that. This is just
yeah.
what's coming to mind right now. If if I had to teach, I mean, if I had to tell a teacher, if I were to tell your son, if I were to tell my daughter, like, the thing that she could have the most impact there, right, is not to become aware, right, of the DSM. I don't have one here,
Yeah.
like, of the DSM-5 and all in the entire manual of mental health disorders, right? If I could simply just say to them, like, really the only thing that you need, like, to understand is to just be friendly with your students, engage them individually, like, care for them, try to know their name, like, be gentle with them, be compassionate with them. Like, I feel like, I know that that's overly simplistic, but that's what I would say. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think you need to know the symptoms of depression. I don't think you need to know the symptoms of anxiety or panic disorder, or, all the signs of suicide. Like, and I know that schools sometimes, once again, I feel like they're almost enamored with the risk factors. And
Yeah.
in my opinion, what schools need to focus on is, let's give these kids and let's strengthen the protective factors, the things that will ultimately prevent them from these risks. And the most important thing that they can do at the school, right, as an administrator, as a school counselor, as a special education teacher, as a teacher, is, if you can find a way to just develop a fun, caring, joking, silly relationship with your kids, that is the absolute best thing that you could do to help
Mm-hmm.
that child deal with their overall mental health. Now, of course, there's lots of things that they could do. There are lots of things that could happen in the school, outside school. There's a lot of factors, but I think it's a mistake. I think we're making a mistake in some way by focusing so much on teaching, or of helping teachers to identify risk factor. I think we need to help teachers teach, and help them to be awesome
Yeah.
teachers, and help them to connect with their students just in a friendship way. That is the absolute best thing that they could do. But I think, once again, what do schools have to do? Well, we have to provide suicide prevention programming. We have to provide, signs of suicide. We have to like become all of a sudden experts in trauma. And teachers don't
Yeah.
have time for that. They don't have
Right.
time for that. They don't have time. They don't have the education. And honestly, that's just not their area. Like, and I know
Hmm.
that there's a lot of teachers out there who are like, Iuri, that is my jam. I love like psychology. Use it. Like, go for it. Utilize it. But I would just say, like, don't go down the rabbit hole of like, and it's not a rabbit hole like a bad thing, but just I just think we're focused on risk instead of
Hmm.
protective factors. I think we're focused on intervention instead of proactive prevention.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we ought to be. And I think especially in schools, once again, like for me, Iuri, like my goal is academic success.
Hmm.
Uh, how do we get these students to be engaged in the school community? Why? Because that's a fabulous protective factor, right? Orchestra, band, football, soccer, tennis, ceramics, whatever it is, just say yes, kiddos. Like, just say yes to anything and become involved, right? Helping them with their relationships. Why? Because we know that that's one of those things that when they're not going well, that could really shake up their life, right? But once again, is there anything in this life that really matters more than the quality of our relationships? I don't think so,
Hmm.
man. I feel like that's the top. Like, that is the number one, right?
Yeah.
I feel like, and so we want to teach these students, right? Not what they need to be looking for if they're sick, but how to build these protective factors so that we can actually not just prevent some of those, but deal with those, right? With sadness or lonely or anxiety or panic with a perspective that allows them to recover quicker and better. And so, anyways, I hope that didn't sound a little bit like, was that a little preachy? But
No,
it just,
no, I think it was, I
I
think
think
it's
that's really
a really
important.
valid point too, because you run the
Yeah,
risk of like WebMDing yourself too, or WebMDing
yeah,
your students and going, oh, this, you're now you've got one of these risk factors. Is this what's going on? Instead of that curiosity side of it, where you're like,
yeah,
hey, we've got a good relationship established. What's
yeah,
going on with you? And really kind of trying to seek
yeah,
out that information versus suggesting some information also. So I do. I think that teachers have enough. They have enough to worry about instead of trying to also become mental health professionals. I think that's a great point. And just giving them that, like, here's some tools to do your job a little more effectively. And by the way, this is also going to support student mental health. Cool.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah, what one of the tools, I mean, when I've done a couple of videos now on, just providing some quick tips, right, for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to become a better student, right, if you want to get better grades, if you want to have a better year, one of the things that I always tell them is become friends with all of your teachers. Like, just become friends
Yeah.
with your teachers. Like, and I say friends, like I'm talking like fist bump at the door. I'm talking like, hey, Mr. or Mrs. So and so, like you know, jesting, bantering, and like that's what I'm talking about. And I would say that the reverse is also true. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
you are a teacher and you want to enjoy your job and not burn out, make friends with your students. Like,
Yeah.
be friends with them. Like, and yes, like there's boundaries and there's ethics. Like, I get all that. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
talking about inappropriate friendships, but I'm talking about just being engaged, like
Mm-hmm.
with students. Greet them at the door, greet them at the front of the school, like see them at lunch, like just invest there, nurture there. Because man, I, I just don't want to walk into work hating my day.
Yeah.
That would just be miserable. And I know that what's going to make my job like engaging and fun is the relationships there. So I always am. I'm always thinking like engage, invest in your relationships, because like so much of your happiness is just going to depend on the quality of those. And so we always are trying to provide tools for teachers, for parents, for students to become these, the relationship masters instead of relationship disasters, right? And so we just want to
Yeah.
teach them simple things that they can activate and utilize to make their experience better, to have some decent memories, and to enjoy their time. And when they're friends with their teachers, guess what happens? Usually their grades go up a little bit.
Yeah.
The teacher is more willing to help them. The teacher is willing to give them a break, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's just little things, right? And once again, it's instead of this downward cycle, right? We're now creating a virtuous cycle, right? That just creates benefits and advantages. And that's what we're all about. Like, we want to create and give those kids every possible advantage to live awesome.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I told my oldest when he went off to college. I was like, just don't be like overly suck up-y, but be friends with your
Yeah.
professors. Like, your professors
Yeah.
should know your name. You should sit
Yeah.
close enough to the front. You don't have to sit front row. You should sit close enough
Yes.
to the
It's
front
another one of my
that
tips.
they
Sit
know
close to
your
the front.
name. Yeah, they know your name and they know what you look like. So that whenever they get an email from you at 11 o'clock and you say, and this has already happened, my Wi-Fi is out at my dorm. I can't turn in my assignment. I'm sending this from my phone. Guess what? That professor was like, don't worry about it. Turn it in tomorrow. All good. And it's just like,
Absolutely.
it makes such a huge difference. But yeah, you're in charge of these
Sure.
pre-adult humans and you're helping them get to that adult stage, and getting them to that adult stage involves a lot of relationship building and a lot of learning about relationships as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And once again, looking beyond that, right? Not just at the college or university,
Mm-hmm.
but but at a place of employment, potentially
Yes.
in the future with a family, with their children. I mean, like, is there a, a, a skill, I think, that matters more than our ability to just manage a relationship, right? And once
Yeah.
again, we're not talking about rocket science. It's like we're just talking about some small, simple skills
Mm-hmm.
that, man, when we activate them, they just make all the difference, and they make people fans of us, right?
Yeah.
And when people are a fan, man, they're willing to help. Like, they'll go the extra mile just to help you. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
We've got a great community question that was sent in ahead of time. So this is
great.
a long one. I'm just gonna read it off of how it was sent. SEL, which is social emotional learning, has become stupidly controversial and exhausting to defend sometimes. Parents accuse us of pushing an agenda when all we're trying to do is help kids manage stress, emotions, and relationships so they can actually focus on learning. How do you deal with that kind of pushback, and what's the best way to explain why SEL really matters for students' mental health?
Well, I hope that this conversation that we've actually been having maybe can offer some of those suggestions, right?
Definitely.
But you're absolutely right, and I wish I knew who that lady was, or guy, I should say. Might not be a lady, but anyways. But you're absolutely right. SEL has become controversial. I mean, there are some states where we offer our service that we just don't even use that language.
Yeah.
In part because, and I don't think I need to educate this person that had this question. I think that there's just been some connection, right? I think between social and emotional learning, sometimes to like critical race theory, or
Mm.
sometimes, right, this concept, right, that we are trying to somehow indoctrinate their children behind their back, right, to some sort of whatever agenda that is, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you how we address it. I'll tell you how we address it. I think specifically, I'll just speak very briefly. The specific concepts that are, I think CASSEL is kind of the National Association of Social and Emotional Learning. And I think their research is pretty solid. Like, I don't think we can, it would be very difficult for us to dispute that these very basic skills, right? Social, right? Our ability to be relationship masters, right? And to navigate relationships in productive and awesome ways, right? Emotional, right? The ability to like emotionally regulate someone, right? Your ability to manage your emotional temperature, just like massive, right? Because when we're not emotionally managing ourselves, we're often just like, explosive, right? We're not consistent, we're not systematic, and we often struggle with that, right? So social and emotional learning, right? So I think those are the two main things. I'll tell you how we've done that. And we're in several states. We even have a state contract with one of these states. Um, and I say we changed our language. Um, in part because we didn't want, right, to be associated with some of that resistance.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll also say we switched our wording because I actually feel like our content, even though we are addressing like relationships, we're addressing decision making and emotional regulation, or tools to help people manage their emotions better, right? I think that our focus, right? So when I talk to schools, when I talk to administrators, when I talk to superintendents, when I talk to state super, superintendents, I'll usually talk about our purpose in coming to your school, right, is to deliver the kinds of tools and skills that will help your students succeed academically. We help them to be engaged in your community of learning, right? And then we help your students navigate their relationships with their peers and with their teachers in respectful and professional ways, right? And that's actually what we do, right? So our focus, and I think this is the other thing as well, is I wonder, right, if this concept of social and emotional learning has almost become too clinical. Too clinical meaning too focused on risk factors and identifying those risk factors, versus, once again, when I tell people like School Pulse is a positive psychology service, right? That not only delivers right tools to help students succeed in this area, but that is actually proactively, right, less focus on diagnostics and more focused on how do we protect kids, how do we strengthen these elements in these kids' lives. And so for us, making that shift, which honestly is more connected with what our vision actually is, has been very useful. The other thing that we do, specifically with districts, specifically with school boards, with parent boards, with community boards, I've presented to hundreds of these throughout the country, right, is we make all of our content 100% transparent. Not just transparent, but we proactively sign up parents for our weekly email campaigns that deliver all of our student success activities to those parents. Once again, we want to give them the tools, right? We say our goal is you're the parent, we know our place, we know your place, and we want to give you awesome tools. Like, here you go. We proactively give to that. And even with our live text-based support, we invite every parent to participate. So not only are we providing this live support 7 days a week throughout the entire year, including the summer, to students at schools and districts, but we're actually doing that for parents. And so not only have we been honored to be a part of really dealing with kids in some really extreme situations, from suicide to homicidal ideation to self-harm to abuse, etc., but we've had lovely parents who are receiving our texts and who themselves are going through divorce, substance abuse. They themselves are in and out of the mental health, out of a hospital. They're dealing with their children. They're sad, they're depressed, they're anxious, and we just love it. And so for us, how do we deal with this, right? Is we try to remove as many obstacles as possible for them to just see through everything that we do. We engage them proactively, and we encourage schools to do the same. I think that that's been one of the things, and I do have to say, I think this whole like anti-SEL move, I think obviously, I agree with what your listener is saying. I think it is ridiculous. I think they've got some ideas in their head that are just untrue. Like I don't even know where they picked that up, to be
Yeah.
honest. And so I think the best thing that I could tell your listener is do the best that you can. And schools are actually quite good at this, because schools don't want to create problems for themselves, right? Schools
Yeah.
don't want, to be sharing content that's secretive. I mean, heaven forbid, right? And so schools have become very good, right? Very proactive in saying like, hey, we're going to be talking to your students this week about this. We're going to be talking about suicide prevention in your kids' classroom today. We're going to be doing this, right? And so that's one of the things that I think we've tried to do very, very, very much, right, is just remove any barrier and having them see everything that we share. And not just because we want them to see. We're a little bit, I would say, a little more idealistic than that, but because we're actually giving them tools that hopefully they'll use with their own kids. That's what excites me about it. Is I know we've got people out there like, you can't have access to my kid. And I'm like, that's cool. Like, here's some great tools. Here's what we're doing. Take a look at it. And to this point, I mean, we're talking like over 100,000 users plus. Like, we've had lots of parents who have challenged us. We have parents who will text us. We have parents who will call us when we're in their school. And our answer is always the same. Like, hey, we would love you to be a part of this. Like, join it. Let me join you to our email campaign. And 100%. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm just telling you, like, it's been affirmative in part because we work extremely hard. We work really, really hard to create content. And the best word that I can think to describe what we are offering is benign. We try to offer benign content to kids that is skill-based. It's based on evidence. It's backed up. And they're principles that I would say 99.9% of all parents want their kids to learn. And I think we're potentially just presenting it in a way that's more attractive to them. And unfortunately, SEL has received some, I don't know, some silly negative stigma that's just impacting them. So
the term itself is like in some cases, it's like we can't do that. Like an automatic jerk reaction in some communities, in some states, in some circles. It just depends on where you are.
Yeah. It does depend on where you are a little bit. And so, but anyways, I that was probably a little bit too much, but
no, that's okay.
I hope I attempted. I hope it was helpful to your listener for sure.
We've talked about, the text-based support and everything. How does text-based support for students compared to more traditional mental health approaches? And you've touched on this a little bit, but how does it differ from what the norm is in schools, especially?
Yeah, I think what the norm is in schools right now. Well, let me just say, I think specifically when it comes to crisis, right? I think what the norm is crisis intervention services, right? Mm-hmm. It's the 988 service. It's the it's the suicide hotlines. I feel like that's what the norm is, right? Is we're passively waiting until people get into crisis, and then we're providing access to a service. And I say that, I hope not in a negative way, because these services are saving lives, right? They are helping people. Our goal, once again, with students, right, is I don't tell people we're not a crisis hotline. We're not a crisis service. Like, our goal is to proactively engage students and provide them with tools to help them succeed where they are, at their school, in their community, in their school, and at home with their parents, right? We often we talk to students who are actively in crisis, and then we connect those students to those services, of course, including parents, number one, professionals at the school, and other crisis services as well. So we can connect them to those crisis services. But like I said, our focus is proactive prevention and education. Like, that's what we do. And so I think that's the part, right, is we're not falling into the crisis intervention, becoming familiar with like the symptoms, or like that's not what we're doing. And of course, we're not providing therapy, right? So it's over text. Our goal is not to provide that. We provide like vetted resources, trusted resources. But of course, our goal is to connect those individuals to those professionals. Well, to the parents first, and then to those professionals, so that ultimately they can connect them to their parents, right? So ultimately, it's all ending there. But so that's kind of how we differ, from the therapeutic experience. Like I said, we're not engaging in therapy with these individuals. Mm-hmm. We're providing support, resources. 80% of our engagement with them is of a positive nature. when we handle crisis, we're constantly working through the schools to connect those kiddos to their parents, because that's what we ought to be doing, honestly. Like, that's what
Yeah.
we ought to be doing. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of how we differ.
Yeah. What about a student who doesn't have a phone? Like are y'all mostly in, and I guess also, are y'all mostly in high schools? Is this high school level? Is
Yes.
it middle school level? Because like my 11-year-old doesn't have a phone
Great.
at all, but
Yeah.
obviously my oldest one
Yes.
does.
Yeah. So we felt like that was a specific gap. Like when we started our service about 7 years ago, we felt like there were a lot of services kind of within kind of the elementary age piece,
Yeah.
but that there was nothing that was really directed to adolescents. And so we provide our service to secondary schools. Like, so that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of that 6 through 12. That's kind of our niche. We're going to develop an elementary piece to our program as well, but we don't have that right now. And so our service is really that. We are in some elementaries that share we have some really fabulous like videos and some of our resources that we provide for schools. And we do have some elementaries that will utilize some of that content. But overall, like our videos, when I share some of those links or our resources, you'll see like my language, our focus, the way that I communicate is pretty directed towards adolescents
Mm-hmm.
and kind of their vibe and where they're at in their life. And so that's where we are. But yeah, in addition to the text-based support, sometimes students don't have phones, which I love. This is why we offer our email campaigns. This is why we provide schools, right, with these, what we call our student success activity of the week. Our goal is that the school will share those proactively with their students.
Mm.
For what reasons? To improve their academic performance, to improve their
Yeah.
decision making, and right, to encourage their active involvement in that community, right? Because that's what's going to make that school climate and atmosphere a better place for everyone, right? And administrators really want to have a positive climate, because when they do, teachers want to stick around,
Yeah.
and they don't quit early. Like they stay
Mm-hmm.
in the program. And so that's what we do. We have, sometimes I'll say that we kind of have this suite of services, right? Text is one way that we engage. We engage proactively via email. We have all of our student success activities that we share with schools. And we've also created a peer-to-peer service. We just provide schools with pretty much a complete, coherent, and streamlined solution to their suicide prevention, student wellness, and student success. That's kind of, I'll usually what I'll tell administrators is we provide really targeted solutions to your biggest challenges. Like, we hear you. You're telling us we're overwhelmed, under resourced. We cannot provide adequate support to our kids who are struggling, right? And not just with mental health, but just student wellness, with student success, with discipline issues. We've listened to all of those complaints now for 7 years, and we provide really directed solutions to those issues. And so our hope is that from day one, our hope is that we can step into a school and immediately multiply that school's ability to provide support to their students, simply because we can, right? Because with a couple of touch of buttons, like, we're going to be providing actual support to students via text. We're going to be engaging parents and students via email, and we can just amplify that. It's lovely.
Yeah. There's definitely a gap also whenever students switch from elementary school to middle and high school too, because they lose a lot of that very closeness with their teachers that's inherently built into their schedule in
Yeah.
elementary school. It's different. And my 11-year-old just went to 6th grade, and it's wildly different for him. And so just having that ability to have a little bit of extra support, I think, could be really incredibly impactful. It's
Yeah.
because it's a huge change, and there's not very many extra resources built in, at least, for
Yeah.
making that change and making that change successfully.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, whether it be through our email campaign, through our proactive videos, or even through our text-based support, I think one of the big draws is just the ease of it, right?
Mm.
And I know we're not talking about a large distance, right? A kid that's walking down the hall and walking into that counselor's office. But that's a long ways for kids. Like
Yeah.
they often don't want to do that, right?
Hmm.
And we facilitate that, right? We can quickly engage in a private manner, in a very accessible manner with those students, and then facilitate those connections by helping to connect those kiddos to their counselors there.
Yeah.
So
Can you share a story where you really saw School Pulse make a difference for a student or a school as a whole?
you bet. Yeah, we have a lot of stories. I feel like they're like Nobel Prize winning type stories. Like they're all the way from very very simple, um, all the way to you know, for example, I mean, I would say that there's a school in Wisconsin that everybody knows about, and there's a school in Wisconsin that nobody knows about.
Mm.
And I think I want to say I think it was last year before Christmas, there was a school shooting at a school there, and I think a couple of students died. I don't remember all the details, but I kid you not, and I know that this is going to be like Iuri, really, but I'm telling you, that exact day of that shooting, there was a student that was part of our text-based support in one of our schools there. We have some wonderful partnerships with the Marshfield Clinic that provides grants for us to launch our program in schools. They're fabulous. But we were providing some support to this student, and this dear student expressed some homicidal ideation.
Mm.
And we engaged with that student. We were already engaged with them. They had already been receiving our content. We had already spoken to them. They engaged with us, share that with us. We were able to intervene with that student, help that student, support that student. And more importantly, we were able to connect that student to their counselor, who then connected them with their parents. Now, let's take it easy, Iuri. Like, did you really stop a shooting? I don't know. I don't know. And once again, and sometimes that's the challenge of prevention, right?
Yeah.
The challenge of prevention is that it's hard to measure.
It
How
is
do we
really hard to
measure
measure.
prevention, right?
Yeah.
Right? But that's one instance, right? Where on the exact same day that occurred, we had another student who expressed some ideation that way, and we're able to help.
Hmm.
And in another place, we weren't. And that is in no way to be disrespectful or anything to anyone.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I mean, we just have countless stories of students, who come to us with plans and suicide letters and reporting, physical or sexual abuse, or
Hmm.
somebody at school is touching them inappropriately. And once again, because of the ease of the access, right? Our proactive engagement, we just happen, we're just honored to receive those interactions and then provide those solutions, all the way to gang shootings, to, I mean, just anything that you can imagine that it just happens at schools.
Hmm.
And we just happen to be, really, even for schools who are looking to enhance some of their school safety initiatives, for schools who are looking to enhance even their liability protection. I had a superintendent who had experienced a couple of suicides within their district,
Mm.
and they were being sued. There was a civil lawsuit from the parents. And that superintendent said to me, "Man, Iuri, I'll be honest. I wish I had School Pulse in my pocket walking into that courtroom, because we just have such a robust, like, systematic, sustainable, just barrage of goodness, right?"
Yeah.
And he just didn't have some of those, and
Hmm.
so I mean, I think they ended up settling out of court. Doesn't matter, but I think for superintendents, for administrators, man, I know that that's a huge concern. And we're there. Truly, we want to come to the rescue. Like,
Hmm.
we want to provide you with some protection. Like, and with, like, this idea, like, we're doing everything in our power to prevent these things. Like, so that's another thing that I think we can, that I think a lot of administrators who are thinking at that kind of high level thinking, they're thinking about those things, whereas a school counselor or teacher is thinking more kind of in like where the rubber is meeting the road. Like, man, we just got to figure out, how to deal with these disciplinary issues in my classroom. Like, so.
Yeah. I want to switch gears a little bit. You wrote Know Thyselfie for teens.
Yeah.
What are some of the key lessons from that book that apply to students today?
So many. So I actually, that book is in some ways kind of similar to Mind Over Gray Matter. That was Mind Over Gray Matter was the first book that I ever wrote. And honestly, it was such a good experience. Like I think my mom was a writer herself, a real poet. I should have read one of hers, but she wrote them all in Portuguese. But anyways, so I think I've always kind of had this desire to write. And writing Mind Over Gray Matter was such a positive experience for me. And then I followed that up, I want to say maybe a couple of years after that, with Know Thyselfie, which is really more connected to this work that I've just done with teens. And I kind of I live in St. George, Utah. It's just this lovely, lovely, lovely community. It's like a little rock climbing mecca. So I've kind of developed this adventure-based therapy idea where I take my clients rock climbing and doing these adventures. And so as a result, like I've just done a lot of work with adolescents over the years. And so Know Thyselfie is really, I probably have like 50 chapters in that book, but they're just very small. Like they're just simple ideas, right? I'll give you a couple of titles that just come to mind that just promote like little, what I would say are paradigm shifting ideas that can really be beneficial for them. So one of them that comes to mind is seek not to be valued, but seek to be valuable, right? And then I have a little chapter that just talks about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of constantly seeking to be liked, disliked, whatever it is, right? Just be valuable. Like that stuff out of your control, being valuable, totally in your control. And just trust that process, right? Another one that I'll say all the time is that every moment prepares us for the very next moment, or every moment prepares you for the very next moment. And sometimes I'll share this story by Nelson Mandela, which, by the way, I've heard it several times. I have not been able to confirm if this is even a true story. So there it is. I'm saying it now live. I mean, I've heard it now. It's probably been like 20 years, but I feel like it's such a powerful story about the power of our psychology. And it just talks about Nelson Mandela. For those of you who don't know, he's kind of this, revolutionary that lived in South Africa during the time of, English colonialism, right? And basically what he and other South Africans wanted was for them to rule their own country. They didn't want the English empire there anymore, right? So this revolution, and part of what he wanted to do is to do it kind of peacefully, kind of how Gandhi had done it in India. Well, either way, whether it was or it wasn't, he was in prison and spent, I want to say it was either 27 or 37 years in a hard labor camp in South Africa. Later on was released and became the president of that country. And at some point he was interviewed by this reporter who asked him, how did you handle the injustice? How did you handle the suffering? And he said, what suffering? It was preparation, right? And sometimes, if we're to think about like, how do we become, and this is a little teen language here, but like, how do we become invisible and bulletproof in this life? It's with a mindset like that. Like if we can view the events in our lives as preparation for the next events, right? Or even, the idea that I kind of shared a little bit earlier on, right? If we can take the events in our lives, right, and synthesize them inside of us, like we can absorb them. And if we can leave with this understanding that these events can potentially be consecrated for our good. And consecrated, the word that I use there is they can make, like we can make them holy for us, right? And I just love that. Once again, this is not made to diminish anybody's suffering. It's not meant to be a, hey, just, pull yourself up, and you can do it. It's not meant to be that. I really want to communicate something that's true. And I mean like capital T true, like, and so that's really my hope is, and so this book, Know Thyselfie, is really a combination of just lots of these little ideas that are meant to kind of create these little shifts that allow these awesome kids to just look at their life and interpret the events in their life in a little bit of a better way.
I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
And we
thank you.
talked about this at the very beginning. You've got 5 kids. How has your professional experience shaped the way you support your own kids?
What a great question. I think I would maybe say the very first thing, and I hope you can still hear me, right? I think I just noticed that one of my earbuds ran out of power, but
No, I can hear you just fine.
yeah, good. I think one of the main things is I think it's allowed me to see their behavior, their experience, their challenges, their successes, their failures with just, in my opinion, with just a larger perspective. Like I'm just calmer. Um, like their mistakes don't scare me very much. I don't want to preach fear. I want to preach confidence. In fact, that's something that I would tell parents. Like, don't send your kids out into the world with fear. Send them out with confidence. Like, tell them to go into the world confidently. Teach them how to do that. Model that for them. And so I think that that's been one thing. I hope that another thing is maybe part of that. Some of that perspective has allowed me to stay somewhat even, and I hope approachable.
Mm.
And I hope I have promoted the idea with them that like dad is a safe place to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether it's like I'm talking about like, this boy or this girl or this that's going on, or whether I'm talking about something that I really don't want to talk about, right? Whether I'm sad or depressed or even suicidal or whatever it is, I hope that I can come across as somebody, number one, that's approachable, that's safe, and very optimistic. Like, hey, like this sounds tough, but I have no doubt in my mind, like that this will be fabulous for you. Like I just know it. Like, and so it always has to end there for me. Like,
Yeah.
meaning me expressing confidence in their ability to deal with it. Like you're gonna deal with it. Like in fact, it's gonna be even more than that. Like it's gonna become even better than that. So I hope that that's something that has been helpful for them. I hope it is.
Yeah. I know doing these podcasts all the time, like it's changed a lot of things that I do in my own parenting, along with therapy and feedback from my own kids and everything.
Sure.
But yeah, it's conversations like this that I think really kind of help you center your kids a little bit also and say like what do they need from me instead of what do I need to give them. It's what do they
Yeah.
need from me, and it's these kinds of conversations I always find fascinating, and I always try to take something away from them that I can do a little bit differently.
Well, good. I'm glad. For
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah. We are coming up on the last couple of questions. So folks who are here with us in the chat, if you have any more questions for Iuri, feel free to pop them into the chat. And Iuri, what is your favorite life hack?
My favorite life hack. I'll tell you the best thing that I absolutely do for myself. And I don't do it all the time. Um, but when I do it, I mean, it's like for me, for Iuri, surefire method to like immediately like boost my mood, boost my day. Like when I start my days with a run, especially a run with friends
Hmm.
and maybe my dog, um, it's so good for me that by the time I walk into my house, like I'm like annoyingly happy. Like, and my wife tells me all the time, like, "Oh my gosh, you're so annoying right now." Like, because yeah, like it's just so good for me. And so I would say this, my life hack, and it's connected to that a little bit, right? It's just create movement in your life. Like we are beings in the midst of evolution. Like everything about us screams evolution, screams growth, screams expansion. And when we're doing that, we're just happier. Period.
Mhm.
Like period. And when we're stagnant, we're less happy. And so what I would say is, for me, it's a run or a morning climb or a morning walk or morning workout with my daughter, whatever it is. Like, for you, it might be something different. But I would say, like, if you can spend, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever it is that you can do, right? And you can pack a little bit of maybe some education, some physical movement, some spiritual, some educational, some psychological, some self-help, whatever that is, and just start your day that way. And I feel like that momentum carries. It carries. And if you can even find a way to end your day, maybe with less movement, but something positive there too, I would say, and I would even say with those momentums, do that with your own kids. Start your day in a positive momentum with your kids,
Mm-hmm.
and end your day in a positive momentum with your kids. Sometimes in the middle there, we got some struggles and we'll deal with this, but do the best you can. It won't always be perfect, of course, but like, manage those momentums with your kids. That's really key.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it is time for the magic moment. So if you could
What?
wave a magic wand and eliminate one common opinion or misconception or theory surrounding mental illness, disabilities, or talking about mental health, what would it be?
Um, what would that be? Something, say that again. Wave that magic wand one more time.
If you
Wave
could
that wand one more time.
eliminate one common misconception or opinion or theory surrounding mental illness, disabilities, or talking about mental health, what would it be? Or add something. You could even
Yeah, yeah,
add
yeah.
something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Man, you've cut me to the quip. I love it. I would say, hmm, that's a really good question. Um, I actually had something in mind and then it kind of went away. I kind of am hoping it's going to come back to me a little bit. Um, One of the things that I want to say, and this actually might be a little controversial. Well, here's what I'll say. I'm going to wave this magic wand, and what I think this world needs. Here's the magic wand, right? I feel like it's like it's like a pageant, like, your wish for the world. I think this world needs a humility movement. That's what I think.
Mm,
If I could wave the wand, is I would create a humility movement, right? Where we feel like we just don't know everything. Like,
mm,
that just because we think or feel something, like, doesn't mean that it's like, just approach life with a little bit of a beginner's mindset. Like, approach life with a little bit of humility. I think humility is such an attractive quality.
mm,
And I think it's lacking. I think it's lacking in our public discourse. I just, and it makes me sad because I know that our children are exposed to that in a way that we would have never been, you and I, exposed in our time. But with just these people who are absolutely so unbelievably certain that what they're saying is the absolute truth. And
mm-hmm.
I wish people could just communicate with some humility and even just say, look, like, to me, this appears like a good solution. This seems like a good idea. I have an opinion. Instead of kind of jumping into this, like, it's like my truth kind of concept versus
Mm-hmm.
just like, I have an opinion. I have an idea. Here it is. Let's have at it. Like, let's talk about it. And so for me, if I could wave a wand, is I think that's what I would do. Is I would create this humility movement where we approach life with a little bit more of an open and a beginner's mindset instead of just being so rigid and stuck in our places. Because And I know you'll agree with me, especially, I mean, if you and I have given any thought to our lives, anything beyond the surface, and we just realize, right, that the more that we know, like, the more we realize, like, we just don't know. Like,
Yeah.
we just don't know. There's so much uncertainty in life. And part of that is really embracing some of that, trying to create some certainty. But man, like, I actually think that's a huge problem. And so, anyways, if I could wave the wand, I would begin this humility movement throughout the world. Like, let's be a little bit more humble in our communication.
It would be extremely beneficial for so many reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Well,
hope so.
well, I am going to share your socials and ways that folks can connect with you one more time. While I'm doing that, Iuri, I'm just going to open it up to you and see if there's anything you want to share or anything you want to talk about, anything we didn't get to touch on. I'll just give the mic to you while I share this stuff one more time for you.
Yeah, go share. I really I think what I want to say is lately I've kind of been in I've been in an attitude of gratitude. And this kind of goes on and turns on and then it turns off, and whether I do it in prayer or meditation or in other practices. But the other day, I just read something, and as it is with most things, right? Like, sometimes we're just at times or periods of our life, and things hit us differently, right? Maybe we're in need, or we're struggling here, we're challenged there. Um, and one of those things that I read the other day, and it just said something very simple. It was just a verse, and it just said, "In all things, give thanks," right? And over this past week, like, I've just tried to do that, and that's actually like a pretty famous positive psychology
Hmm.
principle, like 3 things that you're grateful for. And I would say tomorrow morning or tonight or whenever, like, if you happen to be in a car or before you go to sleep or when you wake up in the morning or when you're going for a walk or when you're riding your bike or whatever it is that you're doing, and just do this little exercise with yourself and just look around and just be thankful in all things, but add this little piece to it. So, for example, if you're to say, like, I'm just so thankful, for example, for you, like, I'm just so thankful for my 18-year-old boy, right, or 19-year-old boy, and then just add this piece to it, because, and then answer that. So just take that gratitude and just go one step beneath the surface to, I'm grateful for this because, I'm grateful for this because, I'm thankful for this because, and just allow yourself to go just slightly beyond that, and just recognize that we're talking about maybe a 2, 3, 5, 10% mood boost. But you know what? 10% mood boost is fabulous. It's fabulous. And in fact, the studies will show that if you practice that consistently in whatever way works for you, right? Whether it's, within kind of a spiritual or a non-spiritual or a secular practice, but that technique does exactly that. Like, it can not only improve our mood, which ultimately improves how we feel, how we do, how we succeed, um, but ultimately it allows you to have that extraordinary mindset that allows you to live an extraordinary life. So, anyways, that's what I would say. That's been the thing that's kind of been on my mind over the past 2 weeks, and been kind of fun to practice that a little bit.
I think that that's fantastic. And it's definitely one of those things that it just takes a second and it can make
Yeah,
things so much better for you. That's great.
yeah,
Well,
you bet.
Yuri, thank you so much. This has been a beautiful conversation. I really appreciate your time tonight. Just joining me here today.
MommaFoxFire, and I want to say that I just thank you as well. Super cool name, super cool cat, super cool room, super cool headphones. Like, you've got it going on. I love it. And really, thank you for letting me come. And just, I really appreciated the conversation. I hope that this will be of benefit to you and, to your listeners and to whoever's out there.
Absolutely. Well, chat, give me just a second to disconnect with Yuri. I will be right back. Stick around.